Georgia football injury report. Here we go. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here. Thanks for tuning in with us. Hey, look, Georgia. One guy goes in, one guy goes out. Georgia has not been able to just stay healthy. It feels like I don't think I can remember a game this season where no one got hurt. Florida? Did anyone suffer an injury against Florida? That's the one that's popping in my head as a clean day. But you know, whether it's Bowers or Milton or Edwards, the list of players that have missed time this year or dealt with something is really long. And it was a problem in September. It was a bigger problem in September. If they were as injured as they are now, as they were in September, it would be rough for Georgia. We would be talking about Georgia in a different light. I think they'd still win these games the last few weeks. Maybe Missouri would be a lot tougher. But yeah, it would be tougher is my point. McConkey, he's been healthy all year, and then, he's very limited against Tennessee. Ratledge gets hurt against Tennessee. There's some other guys that have been banged up. RaRa Thomas gets a little bit banged up against Tennessee. So Georgia's not completely healthy. It's also not in some drastic situation, right? There isn't a position room that they are just depleted in the way that the running back room was depleted earlier this season. The wide receiver room, it's fine. The offensive line, as they've proven, is deep, super deep, and they can rotate as many guys that they have, it seems like, with the offensive line. But they do have a lot of offensive line injury. So let's get into it. Thanks for sticking with me. 5-star Georgia fans, sign up for our newsletter, and that link is down below. You want to be a 5-star Georgia fan? I'm sure that a lot of you guys have already signed up. For those of you that haven't, make sure you're looking at the link I've got in the description. Go into that, put your email in, and you get all of the stuff from the website every single day in your inbox. You want to know everything about Georgia? We are going to give it to you. So, Kirby Smart had some things to say. Listen, vague with some of this. I'm going to relay what he said, but vague. I'll tell you what I think from what I've seen. But man, he was super vague about some of these injuries. Here's what he said about McConkey. This is what he said after the game on Saturday. You know what? Context first. Who am I? Context first, for those of you who don't know. Kind of rolled up on his ankle on that touchdown catch that he had against Ole Miss. He played after that and made big plays after that, but maybe that was just adrenaline. Didn't practice at all. I wasn't in the know on that. But McConkey didn't go last week. So here's what he said after the game on Saturday. McConkey got an ankle last week, and he didn't practice last week, and we thought he'd be able to go, but he was not able to go. So Lad gets out there for the first few plays, didn't really go back in against Tennessee. Then he said the same thing, pretty much just said the same thing. Said the same thing on Monday, but he did shut down the rumor that Lad was going to need tightrope surgery the way that Brock Bowers and Amarius Mims and Lawson Lucky did. So that is positive that he's not going to have to go under the knife. It's not usually good if you got to go under the knife. And for Bowers, obviously, he only missed 3 games, and then the bye week. So he would have missed 4 games if there wasn't a bye week. So Lad, not as severe of an ankle injury. TBD on if he's playing. And I'll give my guesses on this. I would guess Lad's not playing. Because do you need McConkey against Georgia Tech? If you're Georgia, do you need McConkey? Do you need a guy who's been injury prone to rehab him? Would be my opinion. If you're Georgia, I don't know why Georgia would shell him out there if there's any question. If it's not just, yeah, Lad's good to go. Let's go, Lad. I would say if it's not 100%, I would lean towards Lad's not going to play on Saturday. Warren Brinson gets a calf injury last week. Within the last couple weeks, I believe it was against Ole Miss. He did not make the trip to Knoxville. This is what Kirby said. He said Warren had the crap. This is all he said. Man, you ask Kirby, and then he gives you 5 words. Warren had the calf strain. Hopefully, he's able to go today. So at this point, Monday's practice has happened, and we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out on Tuesday if Warren Brinson practiced, but it sounds like he's going to practice at least in a limited fashion this week. Again, I don't think you need any of these guys to beat Georgia Tech if you're Georgia. I don't think you need any of these guys. Ratledge, he was in pain, man. He was in pain on Saturday. Apparently he banged knees with somebody. That hurts. That hurts. especially if you're a big dude like Tate Ratledge, and that's a big dude. He was on the ground for a while, not a while, but, like a minute or two. Kirby goes up. Kirby's actually the one that pulls him up off the ground on Saturday. And then he doesn't go back in. So on Saturday, this is what Kirby said. Tate Ratledge banged knees, so we felt he might be able to get back in there. He tried to go but couldn't. There's no x-ray, no damage, so he tells me he's going to be able to play this week. We'll see. He did not return to the game after he got hurt in the first quarter on Saturday. Here's what Kirby said today, Monday. Tate, he's good. Tate has a bone bruise. He banged knees like we thought. It will just... This is the most vague thing Kirby's ever said about injuries. It will just be a timetable for how long it takes to turn it around. Moving on. Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Julian Humphrey were asked about in unison today. Both those guys out. Still no word on what Julian Humphrey's injury is. Is it a collarbone? Is it a shoulder? Is it an arm? I don't think that we've been told. And Jamon Dumas-Johnson, broken forearm. This is what Kirby said about them. Both of those guys are fighting to get back. They're week to week. So CJ Allen has been playing in Jamon Dumas-Johnson's place. 5-star. Is he a 5-star? He was a very highly touted middle linebacker, and he is a freshman, and he's been playing well. Right? Middle linebackers are supposed to get a lot of tackles. It's just kind of how things go, and he's doing that. I think he was second. He was either first or second on the team in tackles at Tennessee, so he's been flying around and making plays. They are plugging in, playing those guys on the defense everywhere. Because think about with Tate Ratledge. I failed to mention this, and I'll go back to it. When Tate went down, they moved Dylan Fairchild to right guard where Tate was at, and they put in Micah Morris at left guard. So they feel strongly about that, and Micah Morris plays anyway. They rotate him in there with Dylan Fairchild at left guard, so they want those guys in there, and if Ratledge is not able to go, I would expect Micah Morris to be the left guard and Dylan Fairchild to be the right guard. I would expect to do what they did in the knee-jerk reaction, no pun intended, at that game. RaRa Thomas had a big catch in the first quarter against Tennessee the other day, and it turns out he had a foot injury. So he didn't go back in after that first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. After the game, Kirby's talking about, we're not sure if it's an ankle sprain or if it's a foot sprain. We're not really sure. Today he said, RaRa has a foot sprain. We don't know the severity of it. But I think he did say that it is better than if it was a bone bruise in your foot. And I'm going to tell you right now, have you ever had a deep bone bruise in your foot? Because I have, and that is one of the combination of foot/ankle injuries that stopped me from playing basketball anymore, that made me have to call it quits in high school. So deep bone bruises suck. And if RaRa has that in his foot, I know exactly what that's like to deal with. And it's not fun. You can't put weight on it. So I don't think he has that. Kirby doesn't think he has that. If it's just a foot sprain, shouldn't be too long of a time for RaRa Thomas being out. He did talk about Brock Bowers a little bit, and pretty much just saying about how, yes, obviously Brock was dealing with something. He came back faster than people do for that injury, and he has to do extra rehab and extra practice and extra conditioning to keep himself and his ankle where it needs to be so he can compete and help the Georgia Bulldogs win football games. That's essentially what Kirby Smart said to Brock Bowers. That is your UGA football injury report for this week. Is Ladd McConkey going to play? I'm guessing no. Thanks for watching.